wasn't able to watch the fight live, but I watched it back yesterday morning. I watched the full fight on Sky's YouTube channel, and I thought it was a phenomenal performance from Adam Azim. I think he looked the best he ever has in the ring there, especially against someone like Ohara Davies, who, okay, might have not been at the level that he once was in his career, but regardless, is still always a very dangerous fighter to face. And I just thought Azim was spotted in there, perfect, and a real statement win, a win that he needed to get. He needed to look good against Ohara Davies to make that statement. And we've seen him talking in a way that we've not seen in his career before. I've seen people asking questions about Dalton Smith, and he's coming out there now saying he's sick of the guy and he's going to teach him a lesson when they fight next year. I've not seen Adam Azim talk like this. Maybe this win has been a real confidence boost and taught himself about how good he really is. As for Ohara, I think it's the right time to retire. I think you can't really disagree with him retiring at this stage. He said he's not enjoying boxing anymore. If he's not enjoying it, why keep doing it? So he said win, lose or draw, he was going to retire either way. So I think fair play to him. Congratulations on a great career. And again, fair play for him to call it at a time that he has. He's not continued too far on to the point where we're questioning whether he's still healthy or not and whether he should be allowed in a ring. If he was to make a comeback, I don't think anyone would disagree with it. People would welcome him back with open arms. But if he wants to get out now, especially when he says, I've seen him in interviews talk about how he's invested his money into different properties. So he's clearly got a plan of what he wants to do. So I think him retiring now when he's not enjoying it anymore and he's still healthy, I think it's the perfect move for him. So overall, I'd say it was just a great main event and the best possible outcome for both, because Ohara gets to retire with everything, with all his health still intact. And Adam Azim can go on now into 2025 and look at some huge fights in the super lightweight division.
Yeah, so just on Ohara, I remember watching a YouTube video Ohara Davies did. This was before I was in boxing in a full-time way and I was making my way in the sport. And Ohara was one of the first to go onto YouTube and make a few videos. And I think the video is still up there on Ohara Davies' YouTube channel. And he was talking about how he'd made many mistakes in boxing and the way he maybe spent his money and maybe threw away a lot of money when he could have invested it and fell into that pitfall that many boxers do fall into. And it's sort of like, I remember writing a comment on it that was a bit of a letter to himself as to make sure that he didn't make those mistakes again. And I think he's since channeled his resources into buying properties, and he leaves the sport with, like you mentioned there, his faculties intact. He can speak well. He's got property. He seems to want to continue the sport in some form. And the other side of it though is like he will kick himself. He will kick himself, and I'm sure he kicked himself after the loss to Ismael Barroso. I'm sure that kick gets a little bit stronger and a little bit swifter again as he hangs up the gloves, because that was really all set up for him to capture a world title against Barroso, and it just went all horribly wrong for him. And he since said, like, in his preparations and everything, in the fight week, he just couldn't sleep. He couldn't get there in the full form and reflection of himself on the night, and it just wasn't meant to be for him, which is a shame for someone like Ohara. But for Adam Azim, he looked brilliant. It looked scintillating. I thought that, with someone that so well, and everyone previous opponents would have been an enemy, this was a friend, so this might have been a mentality battle for him, and it might have struggled to dispatch of a friend or someone that when you're coming through, when you're the young kid, Ahara is at minimum one of the guys, or if not the guy in the gym that you're looking up to. You're looking to watch a few things from him, pick up a few things, and then emulate him on the bag or on the pads. And you've seen this guy come through, and now he's someone ahead of you, in front of you, looking to block you from where you're trying to get to. But Azim didn't seem to care too much about that at all. And when he got the body shot on him, he went into the corner, he roared at Ohara to get up so he could finish the job. It took a couple of extra rounds, but he did it. He looked great. And there's a couple of things that he did there. He ticked a couple of boxes. One, in his ruthlessness as the levels get higher, and the two, the chin check test. But any prospect in boxing, there's a lot of bluster from promoters as to how good they are, and if we as boxing fans think, yeah, they are great. But when you look at it a little bit more and you hear ex-prospect is this, that, and the other, and then sometimes they falter, you kind of wonder, are they as good as they're cracked out to be? Can they take a shot after they've not had it all their own way? And Adam Azim, this is something that people kind of looked at Adam Azim at, and he answered that completely. He took a few good shots from Ohara Davies, who's got punch power. Ohara does, and he hit him, and Adam Azim took it. He wasn't rocked, he wasn't shook by it by any means, and he fired back. And I thought that was a a good little box ticks for Adam Azim. The big thing, the big question though, coming out of it afterwards is the next fight. And I'm sure this week, it being Catro versus Prograis and Eddie Hearn being the promoter, I'm sure there'll be loud, vociferous calls for Adam Azim to take on Dalton Smith next. Josh, is that a fight you're particularly clamoring for and wanting to see next for either of them or this coming year?
I think so. I think we need to stop holding like these two prospects who are kind of moving at the same pace until they get to that world title level. Let them fight now. We can see what level they're both at, and then see how far they can go. Because there's no reason as to why they can't have a rematch later on down the line. So ideally, let's say for example, Turkey's mentioned that there's a massive card coming up in February. Eddie Hearn said it's the best Riyadh season card yet. What's stopping us from seeing Adam Azim versus Dalton Smith on that card? Don't get me wrong, I know it could sell well at most places in the UK. Put that in Sheffield, I'm sure it probably sells out or comes close to selling out. And in the end, put it in London, I'm sure it does a great amount of tickets. But if it needs to be made in Saudi for that fight to materialise, so be it. Because I think it's the fight that's been spoke about with those two prospects for so long now. I remember interviewing Dalton Smith at the beginning of this year, back in February, and the fight was being spoken about when the fight first got ordered. And it feels right to make that fight. It's the perfect fight in my opinion. Two prospects, or not even prospects anymore. I guess you could say two contenders maybe, or two fighters that have world title ambitions. They want to get to that level, and they've beaten everyone they've fought in a fairly convincing manner. Make that fight next. Adam Azim versus Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith, Adam Azim, whichever way round people want it to go. Just make the fight next, because I really want to see those two in the ring with each other in the next 12 months. Because I don't know who wins. Because they both do certain elements of their game so well that it just makes it a tough fight to call. It's one of those fights, it's a proper 50-50, and a fight that British boxing fans, and I'm not the only one who wants to see it. I've been seeing it all over my Twitter since Saturday night. Make the Dalton Smith fight. So if I've not delivered the message enough, my final message, make the Dalton Smith fight. Adam Azim versus Dalton Smith, can we get it made in the next 12 months?
See, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure the calls are really there from kind of boxing fans as to really kind of this is an edge of your seat type of fight that needs to be made next. My finger on the pulse says to me that this isn't a fight that people are really kind of clamoring for outside of the Dalton Smith camp, Eddie Hearn. And look, I have no doubts that Shane McGuigan and Adam Azim aren't ducking the fight. That's not the case here. But is it really at its peak in terms of want and desire? I really don't think so. But the landscape changes where you have to wait and kind of get your fighter to a point where they have a world title to fight for, world titles between them to then fight. It's now at a point where the money is there and fights can be made because the money is there for either fighter to take it where it wouldn't be, and you have to wait for that point because of the introduction of Riyadh season. So maybe it does get made on a 5v5 of some sort, so Matchroom versus Boxer 1, or on a big undercard. But I'd actually like to see maybe both these fighters on an undercard together, and then you can sort of measure them a bit more, make that kind of rivalry a bit more natural outside of just the call outs. Anyway, we'll jump back to the chat here. It says DB Cooper 1 says at Seconds Out, just Google Fraser Clark questioning Wardley gloves. It's on Sky Sports 1 a week ago, 25-second clip. Clark says his gloves are very, very thin before fight. I will check that out for sure. I believe that's an issue with the fly gloves as well too. So I will check that out. I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't want to comment on that just yet. Dubois needs to go for unification, says Cardinal Samuels. Everyone knew that once Joshua got hit back, he'd fold. Always matched well by Eddie, rematch Hearn, but Eddie made a lot of money off of AJ. Thunder Road, Ohara will fight again. I've just lost that. Here we go. He's very emotional. He'll say one thing at one moment and the opposite the next. So many boxers don't enjoy, but do it because it makes money. Ohara Davies is just worried about himself after Barroso fight. What else have we got here? Flexion's interview this week. I'm looking forward to it, especially in light of Eamon's interview with Caroline. Says Thunder Road. Why does Adam Azim need to fight Dalton Smith? Dalton Smith clearly needs Adam Azim Smith more than Azim needs him. Shouldn't Dalton Smith be trying to fight for a world title? He's 28 years old, says Stephen. Azim needs to stay active, needs at least 2 fights before Smith. Too raw. Smith is 28, Olympian, and further in his pro career. I don't care much for it. Hearn keeps hyping it.